I wanted to film a video last week, but I was packed with work. I was editing, prepping for 2 weddings in one weekend. I haven't done that in a long time. It takes a lot of preparation for that. So, in the midst of all that, I just didn't have the time to make a video, and I'm sorry about that. And the funny thing is, every single day last week, sunshine, clear skies, beautiful. And today, just clouds and gloom and fog. But regardless of weather, it is still a beautiful day. And after this video, I am going to meet up with my friend Abe, and we're going to go get coffee and maybe shop around for books. You know Abe. He was in a couple of my videos where we talked about fantasy books and whatnot. So anyways, today I wanted to go over all the books that I have read in the year of 2025 so far, because the year is not over yet. This video could also be titled Mid-Year Freakout, because I keep seeing that around booktube. What does that mean? Does that mean that you're freaking out that the year's almost over and you have all these books that you need to finish before then? Or what? I don't know. I'm not freaking out about all the books that I need to read before the year is up, but I am a bit surprised how fast time just blows by. January just seems so far away. We're in August, and in a blink of an eye, we're going to be halfway through August. That's crazy, and then it's going to be September, and then October, and then I got to read all my Stephen King books, and oh my gosh! If you share the same feeling like me, where it feels like time is just blowing by in a blink of an eye, let's just take a step back and realize that we can only live this life one day at a time. Yesterday, that's gone. Tomorrow, that's going to take care of itself. Today is where we are, and that is what we can control. I love slowing down, especially as a 31-year-old adult, where I feel like I have all these books and all these hobbies that I want to do and all of these things that I want to do with my wife and jobs that I need to get done. One thing at a time. That's all we can do. About the books. Sorry about that. Let's go make some coffee and we'll talk about some books. All right, let's make some coffee. I was thinking, instead of talking about books, I can share a little bit about the past couple weeks. A little life update. And if that doesn't interest you, I'll have timestamps and you can skip straight to the books. I haven't been reading that much. I think this past week I picked up my book once. And I'm okay with that. Life gets crazy, life gets busy, and priorities take place. You know, I just love life and all of my little hobbies and the people I get to spend time with, that I don't have this pressure, this guilt complex just collapsing on me when it comes to books. Like, oh my gosh, I really need to read this book and I need to finish it so I can get a review out for my booktube channel. But no, if I made a review for a book that I sped through and rushed through, or maybe didn't finish, I don't know, I just feel like that's not being honest. That's not being myself. I want to read when I want to read, and I want to approach that hobby with the right attitude and mindset, and I want to be present with the people that I'm with and the other hobbies that I choose to do. In the past month or so, my wife and I have been binging Breaking Bad. It's my 4th time all the way through the series, and it's my wife's 2nd time through the series. And I love it. We love it. And it is truly one of the best examples of storytelling. character development and pacing and dialogue and just narrative. It's perfect, in my opinion. And the funny thing is, my wife and I think Better Call Saul, the prequel show, is even better. Because it's a character that I feel like is more complex and multi-layered than Walter White. And it's a character you could root for. So we watched that, and I also dove back into Elden Ring, and I've just been eating that game up. I think I'm level 103 and I'm in the Forbidden Lands. However, I'm taking a break. I like to do little 20-hour spurts, dive in and then slow down. I'll return to that when I'm ready, because nearing the end of that game is it's a bit sad, and I don't want it to end. I think it was last week where my wife went to work and I decided to surprise her with something. Surprise her with flowers, her favorite Trader Joe's candy, and also a video game that she has been wanting, and that is Split Fiction. And that's what we did all last week. Every free chance we got, we played that game. It's the most fun we've had with a video game in a long time together. It's strictly a co-op game where you have to play with someone else and share the screen. And what that team did with Split Fiction, it sets an example of what other games need to be doing, especially for co-op games. I think couch co-op is something that we just haven't had in a while. You've got Overcooked, you've got Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers and stuff like that, but Split Fiction, my gosh, this game right here. I'm telling you, if you have a wife, a husband, best friend, sibling, play this game right now. And the cool thing about Split Fiction is there is something called a friend pass. So the fact that I own this game, that means a friend of mine online can download the friend pass and play with me for free. They don't have to buy the game. Talk about power to the players and caring for players and just like getting more people to play the game rather than having that obligation of two people having to buy the same game. We've got the Trader Joe's Wake Up Blend. And let me tell you, I don't really buy my coffee at the store. I like to buy at local coffee shops. Get quality beans and freshly ground. But for a store-bought coffee, this right here is where it's at. It reminds me of a nice diner cup of coffee. Smoother, better, and multi-layered in flavor. So as I mentioned, I filmed a couple weddings over the weekend. And at one of the weddings, I had a little conversation with a few groomsmen. They were talking about the Cosmere, and my ears perked up. I'm like, oh, Brandon Sanderson? Fantasy books? Of course, as time goes on, the conversation happens, and guess what is brought up? Name of the Wind. I didn't bring that up. Or maybe I did. I might have. However, all three men recognized that name and spoke highly of it, praised it greatly. You know how rare that is? My favorite book of all time, by my favorite author of all time, being recognized and talked about in a regular conversation. And one of the guys mentioned that he got his wife to read it, got his mom to read it. It's just like, wow. And the cool thing about it is they weren't so upset that book 3 is nowhere close to being finished. We're okay with that. We're okay with just reading Name of the Wind and Wise Man's Fear. Appreciating the books for what they are. Not worrying about the ending. Book series are still worth reading even if they aren't fully finished. And one more thing about Name of the Wind. The best man at my wedding, the man who officiated it, he's been reading Grant. It's like a biography. And he's a very methodical, slow, intentional reader. He's been reading that for like 3 years. He texted me yesterday, actually, with a photo of Name of the Wind. I would tease him all the time about, hey, don't get me anything for my birthday. Don't worry about Christmas. Just read Name of the Wind. That's all I want. Even if he doesn't like the book or the story or the main character, I feel like my friend John would have the capacity to still appreciate it for what it is. Appreciate the pacing, the writing style, the depth, the world building. So I know I definitely screwed up this cup of coffee. Normally you want to brew your cup within 3 minutes. I don't know how long that took and how many stories I shared, but we'll still drink it, still enjoy it, and go from there. Now let's go talk about some books. Wow, it's actually not that bad. Like I've mentioned, it really is amazing how time has just flown by. And I look back on January and February when I was still in the trenches, literally, with Wheel of Time, Memory of Light, the last book, book 14 in the Wheel of Time series. I still think about this series at least once a week. Think about that ending, think about the journey, think about that beginning. Man, 2 years of my life I spent with Wheel of Time. I can only read that series for the first time once, and this year, 2025, I finished it. And then it felt like a tunnel just opened up, a whole new world of books, authors, and different writing styles to get lost in. Because I really challenged myself to stick it out with Wheel of Time and only Wheel of Time. Not reading anything else outside of that. Maybe a break here and there, but once Wheel of Time finished, I think this year just opened up my eyes to different books and stories. And after Memory of Light, I went ahead and read The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. And let me tell you, this is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. And it's a fantasy standalone. You know how rare that is? Most fantasy books are lost in a 5, 6, 7, 8, 14 book fantasy series. But this stands on its own. 300 pages, and that's it. You know, I might reread this very year. I might add this to the book club and present that because I think everyone needs to read this. Why is no one talking about this book? There's more to classic fantasy than The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. If you haven't read this, please give it a shot. The most beautiful book I've read this year. And I'd say the most beautiful book I've read since Name of the Wind. What else? What did I read next? Oh, I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I wanted to cleanse the palate after Wheel of Time and give some shorter books a try. And you know what? I didn't even finish this. I got about 80 pages in and I don't think I was in the mood. I just don't think the writing style worked for me and the humor kind of went over my head. I would love to give this book a second chance and actually read it all the way through. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. I don't think we should force ourselves to read through a book we're not fully enjoying. You know, let's put it down, take a break, pick up another book, come back to it with fresh eyes. We all know this one, Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. Right here, look at that. This is exactly what I needed after 2 years of fantasy books, 2 years of Wheel of Time. This is the palate cleanser that I needed. This is hyped and talked about all over on booktube. Oh, look at that. There's the sun. Got to dial down the exposure a little bit. And it happens to be my wife's favorite book series. She's currently on book 4. I think she's got 3 chapters left. This was just so much fun to read. As someone who loves video games and Dungeons and Dragons, I could relate to everything in this book. Except, you know, being thrown into a multi-layered dungeon fighting for my life. This was my favorite bag of potato chips. I grab one, eat it. I think I want another. Okay, I'll have one more. All right, maybe I'll have a few more. Just give me a little handful. All right, I'll just get a little bowl here and then put the bag away. I end up opening the cabinet and grabbing the bag and going to the couch and then I ate the entire bag of potato chips. That is what this book is. I did, however, audiobook the second book. We were on a work road trip, and I thought it would be fun to experience the second book with my wife. She had physically read it and loved it, but this was my first foray into the second book. I did not like the audiobook. It was exhausting, it was fast-paced, it was overwhelming with all the voices and just constant noise. So I'm a little sad I didn't enjoy book 2 because of the audiobook. However, much like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I will give this another try and physically read it. That way I'm able to take my time with it, soak in each word, and enjoy all of the many new achievements and magic items. What else? I read Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, the first book in the Farseer trilogy. I was recommended this trilogy years ago, and all because I love Name of the Wind. It was a friend of mine, she's like, hey, if you love Name of the Wind, you will love Robin Hobb and her writing style. So I went ahead and bought all 3 books, and they sat on my shelf for however many years. And now, this year, I finally dove in to Assassin's Apprentice, and let me tell you, no one writes characters like Robin Hobb. Her writing evokes emotion and feeling that I didn't even know I had. Makes me feel like a kid again. Makes me feel that nostalgic longing for the simple times of being youthful and free of the adult life. Although this is a fantasy book with royal houses and magic, there's so much humanity in this book. Relatable themes and feelings and aspects. And I have taken a break from this series, only to not rush it. I also started the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio, Empire of Silence. Another book series that is highly praised and hyped on booktube. I didn't really enjoy book 1 as much as I thought I would. And I think that's because of the expectation and the hype train surrounding it. I learned my lesson. I need to stay away from all that and approach books at my own time and in my own manner. However, I keep saying there's always a however. I will continue that series up into book 3. I'll give book 2 and 3 a shot. Another little book I read in a couple hours is And Every Morning the Way Gets Longer and Longer by Fredrik Backman. You talk about humanity and the human experience and emotions and feelings and relatability, and this is it. Fredrik Backman knows how to do it, and he knows how to make you cry. I was a sobbing, snotty mess after reading this. Made me think of my mom and just soaking in all those memories that I had with her. And all the lessons she taught me, and all the conversations we shared. Beautiful book. I do plan on reading Fredrik Backman's Anxious People and Beartown trilogy. I hear amazing things about those books. It wouldn't be a year of reading without a couple Stephen King books, Carrie and The Body. I cannot believe Carrie was Stephen King's very first published debut novel. Blown away by it. Just how he presents a story and uses flashbacks and flash forwards and newspaper clippings and book excerpts. He gives you hints of what has happened already, yet you're still anticipating and on the edge of your seat. And, of course, The Body. A wonderful book about boyhood and what it's like being a kid, having 3 other friends, going on a little adventure. I love Stephen King. Stephen King is also another potato chip kind of author for me. Not taking anything away from him, but how easy it is to read his books. It's crazy. They're relaxing in a way because of how easy they are to read. Not the content matter, but how he presents and executes his stories. It doesn't take a lot of mental gymnastics. Wow, if I had waited an hour before shooting this video, we would have sunlight. Oh boy. It's amazing that I read all of these books this year. All of these stories, all of these characters and worlds I got to experience. And the year's not even over. I have other books that I'm going to dive into. I love reading. It's such a gift. Storytelling is a true blessing and a grace gift we do not deserve. All of these authors taking the time to craft a story, a narrative, and characters and worlds, and sharing that with us. That's why I never like to rush through a book. I want to respect the author as much as possible and give it a fair shake. Give it my full undivided attention. If you don't know already, I am currently reading Boy's Life. I started that early July. And like I said, I just haven't been reading enough lately. Probably could have ripped through this book in a week with how beautifully presented and executed this story is and how it's written. I did make a video recently on how this book might be one of my favorite books of all time. And now that things have slowed down in my life, I do plan on picking this book back up and giving it my attention that I know it deserves. And I will have my full review of this book very soon. Okay, well, those are all the books I've read. Wow. Can use it as a armrest here. I look at this pile of books and I don't even count them. I really don't know how many books I've read this year. But for me, it's not about the numbers, it's about the memory of each book, the experience of each book, and the discussions and conversations of them. I really appreciate you hanging out with me, hearing about my life updates and watching me make coffee, talk about video games and TV shows and all of the books that I've read in 2025 so far. I do plan on making a second part to this video where I will discuss and share all of the books that I want to read for the rest of this year of 2025. So stay tuned for that. Now it's your turn. Share with me all of the books that you have read this year. Tell me what books you loved, what books you didn't like, maybe the books you DNF'd. Let me know. Let's talk about it. Until next time.